Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, Property Wealth Decoded. Is your leasehold property really going to zero? It might be an unpopular opinion, but we think lease decay doesn't matter that much. Hi everyone, I'm Harvey, a seasoned realtor, analyst and consultant who has 16 years of experience studying the property market. Some agents might be urging you to buy a freehold or sell your current home while it's worth something. Just how much should you worry about lease decay? In today's video, we are gonna try to decode this question. Advice number 1, know the difference between value and price. For leasehold in Singapore, there's actually a scientific way to look at it. There is a thing called Bala's table. And how do developers work? So in my previous job as a property consultant working in 2 major consultancy firms, when we want to look at a value for a leasehold, like how much is it exactly worth, there is a table that actually gives a fixed percentage that be accrued to what is the balanced number of years left behind. And I'm going to attach a link that will show you where you can find this Bala's table. So in that link, when I show you that table, it will give you a perspective of what could possibly be, from a scientific angle, what is left over in the leasehold value. However, the lease decay scientifically means losing years of usage. But what about the effect of inflation? I mean, if you look at the neighbors around you, be it HDB or 99-year leasehold, do you actually see the value coming down? I mean, price-wise, it's going up. But the true value of it is going up as well, because after all, there is inflation. So in the most recent example that I can share with you are things like, for example, HDB flat. Why are $1 million flats happening in Singapore? Some are old and big, and the leaseholds are not young as well. Maybe they could be 30 years old. Or in fact, in one of the recent cases that my client actually spoke to me about, the leasehold could be maybe 50 years left. But in that same neighborhood, a $1 million flat transaction did happen. So in that regard, do your lease really decay? The scientific fact is yes, if you look at the table. But from a value perspective, the owner bought the flat at a much lower price, but he could possibly sell in the market today for $1 million. It's not always a case whereby if your leasehold is going down, that your value is going to go down. But is that truly what it's going to be? So let's explore a little bit more. So if my point of what I made above makes some sense to you, because even for flats or like 99-year leasehold private properties, prices have been going up and more than what they originally purchased it for, then maybe my advice number 2 to you would be, why don't you look at your property from a usage or utility angle, not so much as an investment point of view. In 99 years, the idea of 99 years from a very historical mindset was 99 years is good enough for 3 generations. 3 generations of people staying in it. But maybe let me make it easier for you. Why don't we just break it down into a tale of 2 halves? If you use up 49 years and you're left with 50 years, so if it outbeats the number of years left that you're going to stay in it, let's say for a private condo, and you're eventually going to pass this down to your next generation, they could possibly use it as an investment vehicle whereby they, let's say, collect rent. But in your first 50 years, you are using it yourself, right? Because you're not going to get any yield. In fact, you'll be paying interest, but you'll probably be done with your loan anyway, so it'll be fully paid up. But if you pass it on to the next generation, they could possibly use it as a rental property and collect rental income. In that regard, that 99 years value truly would outstrip the book value, which means how much you paid for it versus how much you can get from the rental back. So therefore, in this perspective, leasehold properties may well serve both utility or even investment. But in today's eyes, if I were to tell you that right now when you're buying a property, I'm pretty sure your guard will be up. I'm pretty sure you are going to look at it from an investment standpoint, because after all, nobody wants to lose money. But truly, if you power it down into a tale of 2 halves, perhaps you're going to be able to accept that from that angle, that this could serve both utility, and investment as well. So in summary, compare math against rental. How much you pay and how much you could use and get rental back. Point number 3, my advice is, if in today's market, everything is pretty much more expensive than it previously was, and you're limited by your budget with all the measures and stuff like that, you should at least enter the market so that you can have one position. After all, we are in this period, or in fact this decade, we are going to see really high inflation rates. Why? Because the cost of cheap money and the days of cheap money are likely over. But one thing doesn't change. Land prices continue to go up, especially in Singapore. And when land prices go up, be it freehold or leasehold, they are usually priced to the market. So if today, as a developer, if I were to buy a piece of land that was leasehold, I'll probably be paying what it's worth in today's market. So therefore, if I were to give a simple logic, if I were to pay $1,000 a foot for land in today's market, and what you paid for was $1,000 per square foot of space plus the land that you bought into, does it tell you a story whereby at the end of the day, this leasehold should truly still outstrip its original purchase value? I'm not putting my head on the line and saying that this will forever be true, but as it is right now, if your budget is constrained, if you have these things that you need to consider, because all things being equal, who doesn't want a freehold property in prime and whatnot, big space and all? But practically speaking, as long as the 99-year leasehold, even if it's left with 60 years or 70 years for the matter, as long as you can use it, as long as you can get your kids to the school that's within one click, as long as you can get to work on the public transport near your house, I think in that regard, by entering the market and holding a position, at least you don't waste time or opportunity cost, and you know that the market has been going up. Be it if you sit on the fence of those people who believe that market is going to come down or things like that. After all, it's better than paying rent, correct? So I think if you put that regard of entering the market to have a position, then perhaps the leasehold decay issue should not be that high in your priority list of consideration. It could be other pointers, being near good school, being near amenities, and as long as it serves the family, I think that lease decay should not be as important in your consideration as well. So in summary, over fixation on lease decay may stop you from even entering the market, and that I feel would put you on the back foot. So I advise you not to be too focused on that. And especially for younger folks with a longer runway. If you're younger and budget is your limitation, in fact, let's settle today's problem. Let's get you into that house first. And if markets allow you to grow, income grows, and you still have a longer runway, we can always get into a freehold position later. So my advice number 4 would then be that actually the value of freehold doesn't always shoot up. Why? Because actually some leaseholds are already more expensive brand new than the freehold in the same vicinity. You can see it happening in multiple districts. And why is that so? Because as I mentioned earlier, land price, when developers buy a brand new piece of land, it's being marked to the current market and it's being underwritten at the current market value, which is why it's more expensive. So land price plus construction cost plus a profit margin equates to a selling price. But the freehold property that's around there was bought in previous time. So there will be people who are holding on to this property or in fact can sell it at a lower price to achieve the same profit. I mean, you must have heard this multiple times, but data doesn't lie. I mean, it's showing up in multiple places. So what I'm saying is not that you cannot or shouldn't buy freehold. I'm saying that you should not put it as your top priority and resist that to the point that you're only being fixated within that space of freehold property or freehold land property. And therefore, once again, we go back to the point of should this freehold be that limiting factor that you consider as your top priority when you buy a property. And one more point to note as well. Actually, leasehold prices depend on general market sentiments sometimes, and not age. If the current market's high, I think leasehold prices will go up as well. And mark to the market, a freehold is more expensive than leasehold. I mean, they will be in tandem. So I think there's still a price growth story there. Actually, the most valuable thing about freehold is in the land. It's actually not in the unit. Therefore, during en bloc, you would find that freehold land typically commands a premium. If you look at how do you acquire a piece of freehold land to rebuild new houses today, it must be from a private owner, right? I mean, the government doesn't sell freehold land, they sell 99-year leasehold. So in that regard, to extract value out that freehold that you are looking for, or for that legacy purpose, you buy freehold. I think that's correct. But to extract the value within this cycle, or even the next cycle, to get the full impact of that freehold premium, or to extract the best value out of it, would likely be via an en bloc. Because the unit is old. If someone wants to buy the unit, he'll have to factor in renovation, and as the property gets older for freehold, there's a lot more things to fix. I mean, your internal organs are all failing. I mean, the lift may fail, the swimming pool may need an update, or like some tiles are popping up, or sometimes even the water tank, doesn't work. All these are inside the sinking fund. Yes, I understand that. However, as an owner who's staying in that unit, these will become chores. These will become things that you may not want to go through during your stay while you're holding on to that value of the freehold property, which is why en blocs actually happen. As building gets older, people would say, hey, let's just move on, because I'm not getting that additional lift in the market and reselling it in the market today versus my neighbors who are leasehold property but newer, and they don't have to go through all that renewal, they don't have to go through all that reno works, they don't have to go through all that gutting out of some of the key components in your stay as an owner in that development. So in closing out this simple video, I would just want to summarize that lease decay doesn't always translate into actual value loss because of inflation, raw material costs, and most importantly, land scarcity. Everyone wants to have their cake and eat it too, but the thinking cap you're wearing is actually the most important. So set your priorities right, especially in a market whereby things are getting a bit more expensive than yesterday. If you have other things or other burning questions with regard to this topic, or some of the experiences that you went through in your considerations that you may have regretted, feel free to share in the comments below, because there are ways that we can rejig and redo your portfolio to allow you to have better onward, forward profits, as well as probably a more comfortable homestay. If you like what you see so far, do share and subscribe to the channel at Property Wealth Decoded. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.